Uh, First of all, I would like to thank Sylvester and the DMEL Lab for receiving me during this week and organize all of these activities, and for you for coming here and hear something about my research. I'm from Portugal, from Aveiro. I don't know if anyone knows Aveiro. Aveiro is known as a Venice of Portugal, so a different Venice, if you want to. My university, it's an open campus near the river channel. It's very windy, very sunny, with a similar temperature that we have today, but during all the year, summer and winter. It's not cold, it's not hot. This is the closer perspective of the campus. It's a very wide building. I'm from the Digital Media and Interaction Research Center, and we work in several perspectives of the digital media and interaction, and video games and digital games. It's one of those areas. Obviously applied in several areas, and health is one very important area. So gamification. I'm going to explain a little bit what it's gamification and how can we handle that in the different perspectives, and what is not gamification, and interpretation what it's not, why gamify, and some examples of work projects developed during our research. So when we talk about gamification, we talk about two key concepts. We talk about game elements and game design techniques, and we are going to use them in non-game contexts. This is the base idea of this concept. So a game, you have two parts connected through the object, the game. The game designer, who's usually developed the games, and the consumer, which consume the game as he wishes or she wishes, and it's unpredictable, and that is the player. So unpredictable means that we have to build an object as the game in a way that can be played unpredictable. So this will take us to the idea how can we, what can we prepare a game. And to see this idea, we have a MDA framework, which is a 3-layer methodology to develop game design. And we have 3 basic concepts: mechanic, dynamics, and aesthetics. Mechanic is obviously related with the functionality of the game. Dynamic is clearly connected with the interaction of the player with the game and all the elements, and the aesthetics is the aspects of the game, how it looks, how the player will feel. And this is very important for the engagement experience. So, game elements is pieces that the game designer will join together and assemble to engage an experience so that could be fruitful. So several of game elements, points, we have points, levels, leaderboards, badges, avatars, challenges, quests, and resources. We can have all of these together or in parts, according what we intend to do in our game or in our application. So, several kinds of points. For example, cash, which is money that you can have in the bank or can be related with a social status. And the social network score is the most known. It's the, for example, Facebook notification that could be applied in other contexts. So that's a game element that you are using in the social network. And virtual economy, that you have the idea of having credits and have some money control that you can change for other items. The economy can be virtual or dual or regarding system points, we have also 5 types of different system points, and we can have experience points, which it's the regular system which translates the progression of the game in the player in the game, okay, the position. Redeemable points. This may vary and can be used to exchange. Skills points, which gives the player some credit about his position in the game. Karma points, for example, the check-in of a game. If you don't play during several days and you return, you will receive karma points. If you keep your login frequently, daily, for example, you will receive more karma points. So it's a system to go there several times. If you have an app with karma points, we will receive notification and receive bonus, and that's so on. And that's a gamification system. It's an app. Reputation points. Points represent the trust between the parts involved. So you are evaluated between peers, and your peers will give you some reputation. You are very good, so I'm going to give you some points. Levels. Levels, it's important to see my to play some game. But the difficulty levels vary from the beginning of the games and now. Back in the 80s, the most difficult levels were in the beginning. So you have to play it and insert more and more coins to overcome the first level and to be addictive to the game. And now it's a little bit different. You have levels and show you can progress in your game and show that you can play in a different situation. For example, the Angry Birds, you have several levels. You can win the level win 1 star, 2 stars, or 3 stars. If you want to go back and replay it, the level that you had only 1 star, you were in a bad day, so 1 star, you insist, you can increase your skills and show your score a little bit more because you can achieve the 3 stars, okay? So, leaderboards. Leaderboards are very important because you see your score. You are in top 5, in top 10 or top 20. So it's important when you use an application and you see your representation also in the leaderboard. Compares the players, the leaderboards. Badges. Badges are sort of when you achieve a certain goal, you receive a medal. So these badges could be related with certain missions, certain goals, and can encourage the player to collect them or to show the social status between the other players and in peers. Other very important element is the game element is the avatar. The avatar gives you a personal perspective. So you can create empathy with the character, and you can personalize, customize the character or not, but you can choose a character that you feel some empathy with them, and this gives you more motivation to return and play again. Okay. Missions usually are organized in a perspective of a narrative, a goal, and a reward. So, if you have a challenge, you know that that challenge will be in the goal, and if you achieve that goal, it's a reward. So, this idea of challenge and quests are very good because you can use it in an application, and it's clearly a game element used in missions and narratives. Another game element very important, it's resources. Resources are elements that can be management, for example, the number of lives, or can be collectible, and you can collect them. And depends the goal of the aim of the game, so you can have this the game designer has to be wise to balance the resources in the game, otherwise will dismotivate the player. Finally, has last resource that we are going to see is social graph, which is related with a network of relationship among your friends. For example, the Facebook connection will be very good because you are connected in all perspectives, and today it's very important. So, besides the game elements, we have the game techniques. This is a schematic, but we can deconstruct this easily. You have a problem, okay? So, we have to think about the problem and the motivation to gamify, okay? For example, you can go to the health sector and find a problem. As Michael explained, autism, for example, it's a good example. You have children with difficult to connect, communicate. So that's a problem. How can we deconstruct this idea and develop an application or a game to resolve this problem? So you have to convert in a daily activity into a game playing activity. So you have to think how these children need to communicate, where, when, daily, and find some solution of gamification. And then, after you focus in this, you have to add several of additional activities to construct a journey for the player, or a player experience to develop this basic idea. For example, here we have this spiral, and you have different levels. The first one, perhaps you can see, it's a MVP, minimum viable product, okay? So we have resolved the idea of converting a daily activity in a game playing idea. So I'm going to use that and find associated situations that you can grow up the initial idea and find a better one. And you see in green, it's the idea growing up since a minimal viable product to a better solution, version beta, and then launch. And after that, we have an expansion of the idea in a play experience. And this last column will be related with the mastery of the application. Okay? This is very interesting because it's schematically explained the idea since the small problem to a huge project. It's not, it's simple to explain, not simple to develop. Okay? And in what areas can we develop these gamification products? We have a lot of marketing, sales products, advertising, human resources. Nowadays, crowdsourcing, it's one of the hottest areas to use this gamification strategy. Changing behavior, it's very difficult and it's very tricky because the human being is very tricky. So health, wellness, sustainability, activism, social participation and education. Before moving on and explain the application in the health sector and give some examples, I would like to clarify the other opposite, what we can see and analyze, what it's not gamification. It's important to understand. So, if we look here, we can see that if we had some game aesthetics in a daily object, it's not gamification, okay? And this was a lamp with some lights or some animations, but you don't have any interaction with this system. So we can see in this schematic also that in the playful interaction we have a play, an informal play. It's not a game, but like a toy, okay? And the opposite, we have serious games and gamification. And we have here a borderline. If it's a game, we will have all the elements incorporated in the game. If it's gamification, we have some elements, but the end, it's not a game, okay? So perhaps we can see a video and choose. So gamification, it's not only points, badges and leaderboards. It's necessary additional things. And these additional things usually are related with behavior change. We have here a video, and the idea is to choose, this is a top 10 video from top 10 gamification examples with a mistake, fun theory. And we can here see what could be gamification and changing behavior, or it's only a playful design. To change behavior, we have to consider two ideas. The motivation, the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. And here you have to deal with different stimuli. The idea of the individual to have an internal reward associated to some action. And you have to be autonomous to can deal with this intrinsic motivation. The other extrinsic motivation is related with rewards and associated to a specific action. This is not a very easy situation, because to change behavior we have to consider that the individual has to consider that he can change the behavior, he wants to change the behavior. So we have this trans-theoretic model with the stage of behavior change, and we can see here that in the first degree no one wants to change any behavior. Unaware of the problem, okay, in the pre-contemplation. In the contemplation stage, okay, I'm aware of the problem, but I will change my behavior in 6 months, not now. And the preparation, yes, I'm going to change my behavior, but 1 month from now, not today, 1 month. And the action, okay, I change my behavior, I'm doing something. And the last one is to maintain the behavior, or otherwise we will have a relapse. This is the problem that we have when we want to change behavior. It's difficult for someone to change his natural behavior. So if somehow there is a problem in behavior, to change it, we have to face these steps, this stage, and jump from the preparation to action. Okay? So another interesting thing that we have to include in everything that we have done about gamification is to consider what makes things fun to learn. And the idea of challenge, curiosity, and fantasy were given by Malone, and it's a very interesting topic to add in our situation. So, 2 examples, perhaps you know them. Nike Plus, with the sensor in the soles of the shoes, and as much as you run, more shoes you will need and more competitors will have or not have according to your score. Do you know this application? You register in the Nike. So it's very interesting because it uses all of these game elements that we talk about. The other one, it's a zombie run game. Do you know them? You are chased by a zombie army, so you have to run a lot. So the goal is to run, okay? In both applications you have to run. This is very interesting. To move on, I'm going to show some examples of these ideas applied in some problems, real problems that we have. And for this idea of video games and cognitive rehabilitation, we worked on a project that's going on, but we start with some ideas to stroke rehabilitation. And as you know, stroke is a problem in our society. It's one of the most common healthcare problems, and it's a big issue in disability and in mobility. So we have an increase all years and all over the years, and the idea is to see how can we help people with this disorder. So a stroke, everyone knows what is a stroke? Yes? Okay, so it's not necessary to explain. And one of the most common effects of the stroke is to paralyze one of the parts of the body, and the patient will stay with or the left or the right side in a spacity situation. And you can't move your arm and leg, but we worked only with the arm. In this situation, we have 3 stages, basically. The first stage, you can open your hand. It's only with a physiotherapeutic help that you could open your hand. But in the second stage, you could open your hand, and you will need to try to use the arm, okay? So we work specifically for the second stage because it's difficult to work in this. We have some ideas, and for example, with the robotic helps, with an exoskeleton, we can open the hand because you need to practice, and as far as you start practicing, more difficulties to recover. So it's necessary to start practicing in the next day after the stroke, which is difficult because the patient is always with a big depression and not feeling well. So the effective recovery is based on high volumes of practice, okay, motor practice. And some tests were made in the lab with rats, and it was identified that 32 movements, we know that 32 movements is done during a session with the physiotherapeutic, but the lab tests show that we need to do 3,000 to 4,000, okay, movements to recover the movements. So in Portugal, the healthcare system do not pay more than 1 session per day, and you only have 1 hour of contact with the physiotherapist. And the idea was to develop a low-cost setup to help people to recover at home these extra movements, more 3,000 movements from one day to another. So the idea, we construct a bracelet, and was associated to some sensors, and the movements were replicated to the computer and helped with a game which was developed to help to motivate the patient to do something, because all the physiotherapists said, go home and do some domestic tasks. For example, clean the dust. Who wants to clean the dust at home with something? Or clean the windows with a... So we developed a few levels according with the movements. So here we have a small video, and Tanya, which is the master student that first worked on this in this project, she is doing the movement with the wheelchair. The narrative, it's important also. So we in this project we choose the aircraft history and the first step of the man trying to fly, and associated the movements in the narrative according with the movements based on the physiotherapeutic program. So in the first one you have to move your arm just in the elbow, and then you start to putting some left, right, up and down, just up and down, first left and right, and then up and down. And the second one was to do something a little bit different, to join the two movements. And then the fourth movement was to sort of clear the room with the smoke that was invading the... And the fifth one was to put your arm up, and the last one was to do the most difficult movement to recover, which is the combination of all of them, and lift your arm in the position of your shoulder. Children, overweight and obesity children. In Europe we have a big problem, and 1 in 3 children of 11 years old are overweight and obese. And the idea is to think about a game. How can you join these all together using what children nowadays would like very much, some social media or something like that, associated to the game, or a gamification application to change the way they think in healthy eating habits and in physical exercise. Okay? Finally, I'm going to show you some examples from a project that we have ongoing. It was regarding the older adults, and we developed an online community, MION, and the community was developed in participatory design with the seniors for the seniors. And the idea was to build some of the areas that they think they are important for them, and games is one of these areas. So we choose different games and developed all of them, but I'm going to show only one because it's a gesture based game, and was developed with the Kinect. And in this project we worked in 4 welfare institutions. This game was developed in 2, and we took a Kinect, an Xbox, and we played bowling during a few weeks. And then we start asking what they liked, and we start to develop a typical and traditional Portuguese game, which is Jogo da Malha. It is this game, and we have to throw a disc and throw it away to the pin, and they liked very much, and the idea was to reconstruct a little bit of their childhood in the game. Okay, so Liliana will talk more about games and older adults, so I'm going to stop by here, and thank you for your attention.